I don't know anybody who's doing this parking lot, parking garage thing, and I've always been fascinated by that. So before we go to mobile homes, I wonder if we can talk about that just to make sure we cover it and I can understand as much as I can. Because I've heard other people in the REtipster audience ask about this too. So tell me about this parking lot thing. Like, is it parking lots or structures? And like, where do you get them? How do you get them? Just tell me everything about it.
Yeah, no, it's both. And, again, just like mobile home parks, it wasn't an asset class that was ever really on my radar. And as you'd mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have a commercial real estate podcast. I've been doing it for 8.5 years now. And a lot of the guests I have on are fairly traditional in nature. They speak to multifamily or self-storage or office or retail or industrial or, one of the major food groups or even mobile home parks. And I've always been very intrigued by niche, unique niches. And so I go out of my way to find those that are in these unique niches, one of them being parking lots. And I happened to have a guy on the show. It's been roughly 4 years, maybe 4.5 years. I interviewed a guy that he was a broker. He owned some stuff as well, so he owned a number of parking lots. But he was a broker. And there's only literally a handful of brokers that specialize in this industry. There's roughly 45,000 parking lots or structures throughout the country, but it's such a fragmented niche that there literally is less than a handful of brokers that actually specialize in that industry. And so I interviewed him on the show, and I was intrigued by the business. I didn't know much about it, and I just asked a lot of questions. And I saw a lot of similarities to that of mobile home parks. Mobile home parks prior to where they are today were very mom and poppy. They're very fragmented. A lot of mobile home park owners only owned one. They were, older and older in the years. They were aging out of these assets. They might not have had an estate plan in place, or I saw a lot of similarities to where I love fragmented niches. I love niches that haven't been consolidated yet by large institutional players. Mobile home parks is well on its way there now. Lots of institutional capital has been pouring into the space. And so parking lots seemed like a new avenue that wasn't highly competitive, that was very fragmented, that we could ultimately buy cash flowing covered land plays in strategic, phenomenal locations, knowing that in its present state of a parking lot, let's just speak to a parking lot. In its present state of a parking lot, there will never be a time where it has a lesser value than that of just an asphalt parking lot, right? And the locations we're buying in will inevitably be a redevelopment at some point in time. We don't pay for the future value of it being a redevelopment. We pay for what it's actually making today as a paid parking lot, knowing that inevitably there will be future upside, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, what have you. It will have a higher and better use as something else. And so another common theme when we kind of compared apples to apples, mobile home parks to parking lots, is that we saw that in the mobile home park space, lots of antiquated operations were in place with these old mom and pops. I mean, they were still keeping handwritten ledgers. They didn't have the ability for residents to have auto pay or pay with a credit card or ACH. They just didn't run a tight ship. They didn't utilize technology or leverage technology to their benefit. And there's still a lot of parking lots in this country that are run just that way. They've got parking lot attendants in place that collect, cash. Half that cash probably doesn't make it to the owner's hands. Depending where the parking lot is, there's different demand drivers, whether it be entertainment venues or sports arenas or courthouses. And there's different peak hours, right, where one can charge more for parking than other times. And so these mom and pops would just say, well, it's $3 an hour no matter what. Whereas more advanced technology allows someone to institute dynamic pricing to where on the 4th of July, well, it's $35, for 4 hours or for the day, whereas other times it's $2 an hour, right, in the low times, and just adjust it so that you can, garner as much of that revenue as possible. And so there's lots of opportunities like that we have found in the parking sector that have major inefficiencies that we can ultimately come in and not necessarily us take over the operations, but find a better operator. There's not a shortage of operators across the country that manage and have a business of managing parking assets. And so a lot of those are fairly advanced with technology. A lot of them are not. And so there's an opportunity for us to go find the best management company to step in, leveraging their technology and realizing the upside potential of that particular lot. So in the long term, it's a cash flow and covered land play and some very, what we seem to be irreplaceable locations, main locations that just, they're not making anymore, right? It's not in the outskirt of town. It's in downtown or it's in a beach location. Most recent asset we purchased was in Clearwater Beach here in our backyard. Irreplaceable location. There's a moratorium on parking. It can never be built again. And we literally purchased the most recent built, parking deck, 700 spaces, built 6 years ago. And the city will not allow new parking to be built, and they won't allow new hotels that are being built to build excess parking. So everything that's getting redeveloped right now, they're basically taking away surface lots, redeveloping hotels and condos, which is creating an additional shortage of parking. So the demand is forever increasing on the assets that we're buying.
Now, I have a ton of questions about this. So a lot of my questions are going to be pretty basic.
Let's dive in.
But it's mostly just because I don't understand it, and I would love to understand it better. So
yeah.
Question number one, and I guess it's sort of two questions in one, but my first question was, where do you find these deals? And it sounds like they come through a specialized broker. So in that case, where do you find this specialized broker if there's not that many out there?
Yeah.
How do you do a Google search for these people?
That's a great question. In fact, we have not bought any deals through a broker at present time. The one guy I mentioned, he's not in the business anymore. So now it's down to probably 4 brokers in the industry, right? But we've looked at some deals through brokers.
Well, how did you find the deals then?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And so, first and foremost, we always start with the market, right? Market is everything. Location's everything. And so we've kind of identified markets across the country that we would like to own assets in. And the whole objective with parking is to actually find a market that's on a growth trajectory. So most of these aren't like primary markets. Most of them are secondary and tertiary markets, but in a growth path. So like buying a surface lot in downtown Atlanta that is worth more today as a paid parking lot than that of a redevelopment probably doesn't exist, because the developer at that point becomes your competition, and a lot of times them redeveloping it into a 500 unit multifamily tower, they're willing to pay more than that of what it's worth as a cash flowing parking lot. So the objective is to find growth markets that to where the redevelopment value hasn't yet exceeded that of from an income valuation on the parking asset. And so that's tough to do, but there's plenty out there. I mean, there's 100 markets at least where that exists, good markets to be in. And so we've identified the markets that we want to be in, and we basically go to county records and we dig. We've got a team that digs in and identifies the lots, the owners, reach out to them, cold call, direct mail. That's produced results and deals, but not as much as I'd say that the number one way that we have found good opportunities is building relationships with these different management companies and operators. So these are groups that's all they do is they manage parking across. Some of them are local, some are regional, and some are national. There's some fairly small groups and there's some publicly traded big groups, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of parking operators throughout the country, and what we found is that the majority of them don't own parking assets. They just manage them. Like that is their business, is they manage parking. And so building relationships with these different parking groups that literally they are boots in the ground. They know if it's a lot that they manage, they know what it's doing. They know what it's capable of. They also want to maintain that management agreement. So our pitch to them is basically, make us aware if this thing is up for sale or could be for sale. And, we'll work with you to continue the management of it. Or if there's another lot that maybe one of your competitors is managing and it's a phenomenal lot, they're mismanaging it and that you could do a way better job, tell me where that is in that part of town, because it's your boots in the ground. It's hard for me to determine what's the best corner of town to be in. And we'll reach out to those owners and we'll try to strike a deal. If we do, we'll give you first right of refusal. And so, just getting referrals from these different parking operators. The garage I just mentioned to you is a $34 million deal. It's a big deal. The guy that referred me to it was a parking operator that he did not have the management contract on that deal. He's been trying to get it for years. And he made me aware of the potential sale, and ultimately we put it together, and I gave him the first right of refusal to put an offer in to manage it for us, and he won the bid, and so he got what he wanted, which is a fairly significant parking asset to manage, and we got what we wanted, which is a really good deal. So that's where the best deals are found, is relationships. So
could you just Google parking lot management company?
Yeah,
to find these companies?
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Is that simple?
Yeah, and any city that you live in, I mean, if you live in any decent sized city, just type in, parking management, and Google Maps will probably pull up parking lots in your area. Actually, a lot of times the management company is the name that's on that lot, and there's just a large number, there's hundreds of them across the country.
What exactly is there to manage? Parking lots are pretty simple, right? Is it just like the kiosk or something, or?
No, actually not. Yeah, it depends what type of parking lot it is. If it's in a downtown location.
Are these big parking ramps, 5-story? Is that what we're talking about? Or is it just a 1-layer parking lot?
Well, it could be a surface lot with just, maybe 50 parking spaces. It could be speaking to the parking garage, that we have here in Clearwater Beach is 702 spaces on 7 floors, and so it's a fairly substantial in size. It does have like an automated, you go and you get a ticket, you got a gate goes up, you go park, come down, but a good parking operator stays in the loop of all the events happening in the area, when they're happening, what events are going to drive demand. They know when the times of day are, when the demand's coming. They can staff up a little bit and have a couple additional people there helping direct traffic and get people parked more efficiently, so there's not a backlog of people coming in. So like there is actually a lot that they do. But in addition to that, one of the other big benefits is that these parking operators, if they manage other assets in that area, they also know what other businesses have a demand for parking, where their customers need parking, or maybe their employees need parking, and they'll go negotiate with these various businesses for monthly parking passes or quarterly parking passes, and they're on the ball, like they're ingrained in that marketplace. And so you could definitely do it yourself. We could, if we wanted to build a management infrastructure to do that, we surely could, but it's not the most efficient use of our time. So our kind of stick is finding the deal that has the opportunity, the upside, and then ultimately getting that management company to help us realize that upside with their technology. So we're buying it right on the front end. If we were already buying it to where it was fully maximized, then it'd probably a hard argument for us to actually buy like the asset we have there in Clearwater Beach. Like if we were to be the buyer today, we wouldn't be the ideal buyer for it, because there's really no upside left. These guys have helped us extract all the upside. It's a win for them. It's a win for us. But we wouldn't be the buyers at present time, because they've done a better job than we would ever be able to do managing ourselves, and have maximized that value. So
thanks for clarifying that.